Seems around here every town is a sports town. And why not? Sports were important to us growing up, and we want the same for our kids. To get involved, to compete, because that's how kids learn to lead. And why Farmers Union Insurance supports these programs. They know sports aren't just about building skill and strength, but about building character. Farmers Union Insurance. They don't just protect our community, they invest in it.
I'm Keegan Mason.
I'm Carson Hamill.
I'm Andrew Odds.
On behalf of the Knox Ranch.
From everyone here at Iden Charlet.
And on behalf of the Scattered Star Ranch. From our family to yours.
From the Phillip community, I just want to say thank you. We thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank you, the consumers.
We thank you for choosing beef.
Thank you for choosing beef.
It seems around here every town is a sports town. Why not? Sports were important to us growing up. We want the same for our kids. To get involved, to compete, because that's how kids learn to lead. And why Farmers Union Insurance supports these programs. They know sports aren't just about building
We tried to do the cross country today.
About building character.
It's awkward, but
Union Insurance.
you're up on the only place you can be is up on the golf course.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is that where you learn stuff on this?
Yeah.
Is that?
What we're gonna try is use a battery and a converter, get AC powered and put it on a golf cart.
That would be kind of cool.
Somebody's gotta hold on to stuff driving
I'm
around.
Keegan Mason.
I'm Carson Hamill.
I'm Andrew Odds.
Can we be in your presence? None of us were quoted in the paper.
Here at Iden Charlet.
You didn't read John Sear's editorial.
From the
Oh,
Phillip community, I just want to say
you
thank
should be standing up on the table.
I'd like to thank you, the
What?
consumers.
He liked what you said. So did I.
Thank you for choosing
What
I
did I
couldn't
say?
give you an event.
The top 10 reasons for this, that, and everything else.
Oh, the sports thing?
But that, fans is not.
Yeah, I thought I turned it
Yeah.
off just about 10 seconds ago. Stay with me. Stay with me for about 20 seconds. See if it went out. We can keep talking. Well, that was only about 10 seconds. Huh. Well,
Are things wearing on people in
I got the camera mic off. Oh, yeah, that's in the very bottom. It's not in the right place.
I'm probably not
We're
weird
gonna have to
here.
live here, because I don't know how to change that.
I can't imagine what it's just.
I'm Keegan Mason.
Audio ads are
Winning
on.
isn't everything. It's how you play the game that counts. If your values tell you the same, let's start a new conversation about money. At Thrivent Financial, we believe money is a tool, not a goal. Because it's not just about making more, it's about doing more.
Test, 1, 2, 3, test, 1, 2, 3.
Call Webster Thrivent Financial today at 605-345-3635.
Yeah.
Even simple tasks of everyday life can be overwhelming after an illness or injury. When you're facing physical challenges, physical therapy services at Sanford Health can provide the extra support you need. Our integrated team will help you regain your mobility and strength, getting you back to daily activities as safely as possible. We will focus on your recovery so you can get back to feeling more like you. To make an appointment at Sanford Health in Webster, call 605-588-3186.
Last night's game was down 30%. I'm kind of surprised it's not more than that. Viewership.
Life's an adventure filled with excitement, challenges, and achievement. Farmers Union Insurance can provide you the safety net to keep you moving toward your goals and enjoying life's rewards. With multiple locations across the state, Farmers Union Insurance agents provide quick quotes and professional service.
Did it again. Now we're back to, I'm gonna put the audio ad back on.
you deserve. Since 1948, Farmers Union Insurance has focused on
Test,
insuring the
one,
people
two,
of South
test,
Dakota
one,
from the
two,
most remote
test,
intersection
one,
to the
two.
busiest intersection. Farmers Union Insurance, insuring a brighter tomorrow.
January is a great time to take a look at a brand new Buick from Dave Haler Automotive in Webster. We've got 0% interest for up to 72 months on the 2019 Buick Enclave, Buick Envision, and the Buick Encore. We've got a great selection of these vehicles, so come take a look. Also, if you have a GM card, check your statement for extra earnings this month. Dave Haler Automotive, East Highway 12 in Webster, on the web, halerauto.com.
Hotel Bar and Grill is on Highway 12 in Webster. Comfortable, non-smoking rooms. Their steakhouse and bar are open 7 days a week, with the grill opening daily at 5 p.m. Daily specials and popular Wings Wednesdays with over 14 sauces, with traditional bone-in or boneless wings. Thursdays feature Chislic special night, and their slow-cooked prime rib is served on Friday and Saturday nights. Check them out on Facebook or call 605-345-9989 for reservations.
Even with an ad running right now, we can hear us over the
RDO
top.
does that. Whether it's on the farm, the football field, or in the backyard, RDO prides itself on partnering with champions for over 100 years. John Deere has been a champion of building the finest compact tractors available. Let RDO Equipment Company be your compact tractor sales and service champion. Plus, with 0% financing available, there's never been a better time to purchase your next compact tractor. Don't miss your chance to discover the RDO Equipment Company difference for yourself. Visit RDOequipment.com to find
I don't think the Department of Health has made that.
Well, CDC.
A&W. I think it was the Department of Education.
Yes, but the Department of Education, I think, is the one who said that it's up to local boards.
100% U.S.
I think it was the Department of Education who said boards can do what they want.
and
Correct. It wasn't the Department of Health.
Not to mention, it's just better with made fresh A&W root beer.
Didn't CDC come back to the Department of Health? I think it's been 14 days for a long, long time. I don't think it's ever deviated from that.
I agree with the 14 days.
Participating restaurants, prices may vary. Tax
But I still don't care for the 14 days with no testing or anything else.
What was their question? The definition of an essential employee or?
At Thrivent
No,
Financial, we
I
believe
mean-
money is a tool, not a goal. Because it's not just about making
I just think
it's
that
about doing more.
someone with
For your
7
family,
days
church,
and a negative test versus someone with
Call
14
Webster
days.
Thrivent
Yeah, but like
Financial
Aaron
today
said the other day,
at
last meeting.
605-345.
Didn't you say every 7 to 10 before it could show up as a positive?
Even simple tasks.
Isn't that what you got from it?
And we are live, so they can hear our audio.
When you're facing physical challenges,
Debate.
Wow,
physical
that's very
therapy
easy.
services at Sanford Health can
Larry?
provide extra
Hi.
support. Our integrated team will help you regain your mobility and strength, getting you back to daily activities as safely as possible. We will focus on your recovery so you can get back to feeling more like you.
Airplane mode tonight.
588-3186.
Make sure I get that.
You like that one? We listen
You
to
the
the short
safety net to keep you moving toward your goals and enjoying life's rewards. With multiple locations across the state, Farmers Union Insurance agents provide quick quotes and professional services you deserve. Since 1948, Farmers Union Insurance has focused on insuring the people of South Dakota. From the most remote border section to the busiest intersection, Farmers Union Insurance, insuring a brighter tomorrow.
January is a great time to take a look at a brand new Buick from Dave Haler Automotive in Webster. We've got 0% interest for up to 72 months.
I don't think football started yesterday, did it, Tom?
Buick Enclave,
With,
Envision,
the Eagles definitely
and
laid it
Buick
down. I'll tell you that.
Encore. We've got a great
Some of them
selection
are
of
week
vehicles,
off.
so come take a
Jeez,
look.
terrible.
Also, if you have a GM card, check your statement for extra earnings this month. Dave Haler Automotive,
That was at
East
home,
Highway
too.
12 in
No,
Webster.
that was in Washington. Yeah, that was in
Washington.
That helps a
Galley
little bit.
Hotel Bar and Grill is on
Packers
Highway
at
12 in
home.
Webster.
Oh, still,
Full of
you're up
non-smoking
17
rooms, and their
to nothing.
steakhouse
And
and
then
bar
after
are
that,
open 7 days a week, with the
Right
grill
to the
opening
pitch.
daily at 5 p.m. Daily
Watching that
specials
game.
and popular Wings Wednesdays with over 14 sauces. With
But
traditional
the Cowboys
bone-in
lost.
or
That's all that
boneless
matters.
wings. Thursdays feature Chislic special night, and
sure
their
would.
slow-cooked prime rib is served on Friday and Saturday nights. Check them out on Facebook or call 605-345-9989
As long as we,
for
you know,
They can
reservations.
see that.
Partnering with champions.
Philadelphia can go
RDO does that.
2-14 on
Whether it's on the
flying
farm, the
saucers.
football field, or in the backyard.
We won a Super Bowl within the last 5 years.
Partnering with champions. For over 100 years, John Deere has been a champion of building the finest compact tractors available. Let RDO Equipment Company be your compact tractor sales and service champion. Plus, with 0% financing available, there's never been a better time to purchase your next compact tractor.
Get done with everything across country, Craig?
Discover the RDO Equipment Company dealers for yourself. Visit RDOequipment.com.
Oh, wow.
Dealer near you.
75 of them?
I was helping Robert.
At A&W, it's called the original bacon double cheeseburger because
How far they taste apart?
you're welcome, bro.
They're just to make sure they go straight, the blue ones.
Bacon.
Then
Invented
the yellow
and
ones for
perfected
left-hand turns,
here.
and then the red
Not
for-
to mention,
Right.
it's just better with made fresh A&W.
Red was
Yellows are
red was
steak to
right.
the left, reds are steak to the right.
Yeah, boy, smart to run across. Joel's out. 3 colors, that's too much.
Yeah, I got out to the course like, oh my gosh, I have to pick up a few more cones and poles now.
If your values tell you the same, let's start a new conversation about money.
I didn't think there'd be a test.
Thrivent Financial, money is a tool, not a goal.
Nobody said there'd be a
Because it's not just
test.
about making more, it's about doing more. For your family.
Red is right, blue is straight.
Red is you gotta stay to the right, yellow you have to stay to the left. Blue is you can go on either side.
345.
How about green?
No green. Green go at the start.
Even simple tasks of everyday life can be overwhelming after an illness or injury.
Just the
when you're
3
facing
colors.
physical challenges, physical therapy services at Sanford Health can provide the extra support you need. Our integrated
All right, folks, I got 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Life's an adventure filled with excitement, challenges.
We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Motion to approve the agenda as presented. So moved. Thank you, Joel. Second. Thank you, Larry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public communications. Have none. Conflicts disclosure. I will not be participating in subject G, approval of the resolution of the sale of the land to the city, as I have not been doing previously, not because of any economic interest, but because our firm represents both the city of Webster, and obviously me being school board president, I will refrain from participating in that. Minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting on August 10th and our special board meeting on September 2nd. Can that be all one motion, Lori?
Yes.
So moved. Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you, Aaron. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the financial statements. So moved. Thank you, Larry. Second? Second. Thank you, Joel. Discussion?
I have a couple of items if I can bring up. First of all, I'm sure you saw in your packet, I included donations from for the athletic complex. And I just wanted to throw that in there because they just have, I think, one small payment left. But overall, the Webster Area Sports Complex Committee, and then there were a few other donations, the majority was the committee. We have received almost $345,000, so that's huge.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Second, and this is mostly for Joel, utility taxes, do you remember when you asked me about that? We did receive those in August. However, you do not see them on the revenue report because I receive them in August, but they're for the last school year. So on June 30th, I have to make journal entries to record it as that. And so now when I get the money, I have to receipt it as a receivable. But just so you know, we did.
A receivable in last year's budget?
It's revenue in last year's budget. I entered as a receivable this year.
Okay.
So we did get that money. Okay. And then lastly, I just want you guys to know that we have applied for something called, it's a food service waiver number 56. We just got notified from the state like a week or 10 days ago. It's a 2-part process. I wrote these notes this morning, things have changed. So I'm just going to read my notes and then I'll update you, okay? So I stated that I was working on applications to qualify for food service waiver number 56, which would allow us to operate an SSO program through December 31st, 2020. To qualify, you have to meet one of two requirements. The school has to meet 50% free and reduced area eligibility, which we do not. We're less than 30%. Or you can qualify by census eligibility, which we do. So if we are approved, this would allow us to offer free breakfast and lunches to all students, not just free and reduced, all students enrolled in our district through December 31st or until funds are expired. And then I want to emphasize that these are federal funds, not state funds, not local funds, so people, if they're, when we did it back in March, people were like, well, why can't we do this all the time? It's federal funding, it's because of coronavirus, okay? And so then it would run through December 31st or until the federal government runs out of money for this program. Seconds and snack milks do not qualify, so the parents and guardians would still need to pay for those. I completed one application, it was approved, I then had to complete a second application. We did get that approved this morning, so as of noon today, I did go ahead and we implemented free, nobody knows this yet, but we implemented free meals for everyone. And I'm just letting you guys know this tonight, and we will notify the public, hopefully via an all-call. I'm going to ask Mr. Block if we could do that. So we just want to encourage everyone, breakfast and lunches are free for all students, hopefully through December 31st.
Is that federal funds, is that reimbursed at our rate or?
At the free rate.
Okay.
Well, that's outstanding, Lori. I mean, that's a big deal. So 510 students having access to free breakfast and free lunch every day between now and December 31st. Thank you very much. That's excellent work. I mean, that's a big deal. And thanks for getting that done.
And we just want to encourage everyone, because, not a lot of students eat breakfast, but maybe this will help, with the whole, just getting them to school, getting them up, getting them fed, getting them energized for the day. So we just want to encourage everyone, please eat breakfast, please eat lunches.
I'm sure all seniors will stay on campus now and never leave, correct?
That's right.
Isn't that the way it'll work, Jim? You'll just have to have a hard time getting them out of here.
See that tomorrow.
No skip days or anything.
So Lori, I'm assuming seconds, they have to pay for seconds then? If they
Seconds and snack milks, you still have to pay for it.
Okay.
That's great.
That's a big deal. That's tens of thousands of dollars. You think about it, there's 500 kids, and let's say we serve 400 meals a day on the average. That's $1,000 each day, $5,000 a week. You can start doing the math between now and the end of December for our local taxpayers, or more importantly, our parents with kids in the district. I mean, that's a significant amount. So thanks for getting that work done, Lori. All right, any other questions as to the financials as presented? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the claims.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion? Big month for the general fund.
It was. On some different supplies that we got, Lori,
Yes.
I see you've got it broke out, CARES Act, COVID. You're just breaking out what of those invoices we could apply to those?
Yes. The CARES Act money, that we had to submit an application, and that's approved. So that money has to be kept separate. We have to report all that to the state.
Yep.
The COVID expenses that I have are, that was in case we get more money in the future. It's expenses we still have, but that did, we didn't have enough CARES Act money for all of that.
Okay.
So I just want to keep tracking that separately.
Okay.
I thought it was nice to see on the capital outlay that we were able to pick up this year for the gym floor cover and cart at a very reasonable price. I mean, that's a big deal, so that hopefully if we have events down at the Armory here in the future, we won't have problems with the floor. So nice to see that was bought.
The chairs there in the capital outlay, is that Armory stuff as well?
No. That is, we had some replacements, and then we had to have, we had a classroom that we went from the
desks.
all in one
tables.
desk. We went to just separate desk and separate chairs on the high school to make it more compatible for students.
Any more questions on claims? Motion to approve the claim, or excuse me, all in favor of approving the claims as presented? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve supplemental budget 1-9-20.
So moved.
Thank you, Larry. Second, Joel. Discussion? I think it pretty much speaks for itself. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve educational increases per the negotiated agreement. I don't think I have to rattle them all off, do I? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Larry. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Aaron. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve contracts, and I believe it's just one, correct? Two?
Separate.
Separate. So I'll need two separate motions. First one is for Christian Mader, junior high, boys basketball or?
Yes.
Boys basketball.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion to approve the contract for, and I apologize, I'm not seeing it on my list.
Chelsea Larson.
Chelsea Larson,
Middle school volleyball.
for volleyball, middle school.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the tax request for the next fiscal year.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
That's still our capital outlay.
Yep.
I guess we've discussed it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion to approve the concessions contract. Thank you. Aaron, second?
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion? I think this is a standard one that doesn't change except for the dates and the signatures, correct?
Right.
Is there gonna be an issue if COVID, if shuts down or something in concessions?
Well, how the contract is written, Kiwanis pays I don't know what the percentage is, but they pay a certain percentage back to the
greater.
school. And so whatever loss is their loss, or our loss as well. So if there's a significant decrease in concession funds, then we would see less money coming back from them. The nice thing about the Kiwanis concessions is that the money that comes to the school goes to students, and the money that they raise, they pretty much hand out
Yeah,
to
good.
children's programs, and student programs, so.
The way I read the contract, I mean, we're basically guaranteed 1,500 or 40%, whichever's higher. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the revised policy on our family and medical leave procedures, FMLA.
So move.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Joel. Discussion.
This is the final reading?
No.
This would be the
is-
first one because it's a, go ahead.
No, it's not even a first reading, it's just a revision because we have this policy in place, and it's just the one highlighted sentence that we're adding in. That is the practice that we have had in place, but I just want to get it in writing.
Okay.
And typically with our policies, if it's a brand new policy, we typically have a first reading and then a second reading / adoption. If it's one that's already in place and it's a minor change, we can just do a revision without taking 2 months to get that revision. If that makes sense.
Any
And
further
that's
questions?
common practice.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I will recuse myself from item G and turn it over to you, Joel.
Can I have a motion to approve the resolution for the sale of the land to the city?
So moved.
Thanks, Larry.
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion?
Take a long time, hasn't it?
It does, yeah. When approved, when would we receive the money, Lori, do you know?
I don't know if it says,
Better yet, what are we gonna do with the money?
I'm going to bank it.
I guess my question is, thinking about future plans down the road, with the board's approval, is there an account we could put it into with the idea of earmarking it for building expansion, something along those
Well,
lines?
it's- Who operated the land?
FFA.
Would that
I was gonna
account?
say, if you do that, you're going to probably see some folks that would come from their organization that would say, hey, this is kind of our program here, and
And I would love for them to do that, because I would throw out, let's get together and start looking at our FFA wing and what can we do to improve that.
I mean, earmark the funds to the FFA?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
I know it's an FFA farm, but I would say it would probably be better stated as to our agriculture program. So it's not specifically to that organization.
So does your motion, did you make the motion? Yeah, Larry, you made the motion. Does that include earmarking it for the agricultural?
That would be an amendment, right? Yeah.
I mean, would you like to do that?
Oh, so move.
I'll second it.
Second? All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries there.
Yeah, motion carries, sorry.
Motion to approve, or no problem. We'll put it to the agricultural wing, would probably what we've always referred to that.
Yep.
Make sure in the minutes it reflects the agricultural wing. Motion to approve critical infrastructure workers.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion. So, folks, I'll just jump right in. I think last meeting I read the the definition of what they are considering to be critical infrastructure workers for schools. I am not aware, after that meeting, of any employee within the Webster Area School District that does not meet the definition of a critical infrastructure employee. I have not heard any negative feedback from that conversation. Matter of fact, everything I've heard is that it would be expected that the school district would have critical infrastructure workers, especially if there is a vaccine to come out at some point in time. Critical infrastructure workers may be in line to get it before other individuals, possibly. You don't know what the rules are, but I think it's in our best interest to go ahead and designate our employees as such. Any thoughts or concerns on that?
I don't have any.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve an opt-out of the payroll tax relief deferral program.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Lori brought this up, and I asked her to put it on the agenda so that it could be board approval. Lori, I'll turn it over to you, but it's my understanding 95% of the school districts that at least are opting out of this. Go ahead and explain so that everybody understands what we're looking at here.
Okay, so President Trump signed an executive order as of September 1st. Employees making under a certain threshold do not have to pay Social Security taxes through December 31st. However, those employees are then supposed to be double taxed in January, February, March, and April to make back up for that. And so, I just think it's in our best interest to opt out of that.
Meaning we're not going to offer that.
Correct.
Okay.
Because, you know, we could offer it and withhold it and they get that money, but they're gonna have to, if something isn't forgiven or whatever, they're gonna have to basically be double taxed
It's a
in
different
January
tax
to
year
April.
too.
What?
It's a different tax year too.
Right, right. So from the emails on our business manager group, the majority of schools are opting out. And also, I received a message from our auditors, and they obviously cannot give a recommendation. However, they said they themselves as the business will not be participating. Basically, they'll be opting out also, so.
Because employers also could be left in a bad spot if an employee leaves you during that time also, the way it's written. All right, any further discussion on subject I? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discussion items, Dr. Block, Superintendent's report.
We got a few items here. I'm just the first thing that I have on here is a COVID update. I wanted to give you guys some statistics with the cases that we are aware of in the school system. I've been trying to keep track of including every student that we are aware of that has been tested. And so these are the numbers that I have of this evening, and thank you to Mr. Case and our two secondaries or administrative assistants for keeping track of some of this as well. Out of the students in secondary end, we have had, as far as I know, 12 students that have been tested, and we have 2 positive cases. K through 8 has had 9 students tested with no positive cases. Out of our 2 students that are positive, I think it's important to note that 1 student is in attendance at school, and that is no longer an active case anymore. We had students that were on a close contact list and quarantined during that particular situation, and those students and the person who tested positive are back in school. The other student is a student that has chosen to do online learning, and so is not a part of our school system. So if people are wondering why didn't we get notification for 2 students, the second one I did not send out a general notification because there's no close contact list or any need to alert folks that there's a case. We simply were contacted by Department of Health stating that the student did test positive, and that there's no close contact list because they don't attend school. I shouldn't say they have a close contact list, but it just doesn't affect our students. And then as for the teachers and staff, we have had 4 people that I'm aware of that have been tested, and we've had 2 positive staff member tests. One was before school started, and so that was in the summertime prior. And then the other was another staff member that experienced symptoms over the long Labor Day weekend. And when the Department of Health calculated the exposure dates, it didn't affect any close contact situations with any students. And so that teacher is in quarantine and will soon return. So, and that was the latest notification that I had sent out. So that's the numbers that we've been doing.
Can I ask a question? I had a parent bring up to me, as we talk about COVID testing and teachers and staff and students, and there is some concern, I think, in the community about the students in the secondary end that not always wearing masks in the hallway and putting our teachers at risk, among other people as well. I mean, is there anything that we could be doing?
All I can say is administratively, if we are a district that is not going to require masks, all we can do is highly encourage that. I don't believe that I can give a detention or a suspension or send kids home if they're not required. I will say that I believe that the students are following the the guidelines that the teachers have in the classroom. If the teacher expects them to wear one during a specific time, I do believe that they're following instructions, at least I'm
From
not.
what I'm hearing, that is correct. It's more the hallway situation.
And I would say, and these are my own percentages of what I've been able to observe, I would say our elementary is doing an excellent job, our middle school is doing an excellent job, and our high school, I'm still calculating at about 70% of our students are wearing masks in the hallways. And so, yeah, there is a larger portion than we had the first 2 days of school, 3 days of school, so.
I think we better be prepared to answer that question. If we get a couple staff members come up with COVID, are we going to start to require it or not?
Brookings?
Well, I don't think, the hallways, it's not that bad. I mean, it's 5-6 minutes in the hallways.
Right.
You're just asking them to, as you traverse through classes. Most of these classes, especially in the high school level, they are distancing them out a lot better just because of numbers. I mean, do we want to just consider saying, just wear a mask in the hall, period? Is that what you're saying, Joel?
I think we're getting close to having to say that. I just want to be proactive. If there's any way that we can get the word out to try to help. I think it started off pretty good from what I'm hearing, and it's falling off. Can, some of the students step up and parents and try to make these kids do it on their own, or are we going to have to enforce a rule? I don't want to have to enforce a rule, no, but I think we need to be prepared to do it if we need to.
I want to be clear, I don't want to have to mandate a rule, but I want everybody in this building, as long as we can, up until, what day's graduation, May 21st, whatever date it is. I mean, I want people here.
I will be honest, that's one of my frustrations, because I know they're not wearing masks full-time in the classroom. The teachers are allowing them not to have them on if there's the barrier and they're not speaking to each other and not conversing and working in small groups. And so, for a good portion of the kids, I don't believe they're wearing them for a significant amount of time throughout the day. To me, in transition, they should be able to. There's some frustrations with the kids' part. We ask them to wear their masks down to lunch, and then they get to take them off and sit straight across from each other. But it's still, to me, you're talking about exposure with other people, larger group of people, for certain amounts of time. It's frustrating. And I'm frustrated with, this is another one of the items that I think we need to discuss, but I'm frustrated with our student body sitting as a mass at a volleyball game or even at a football game. To me, it doesn't matter if you're outside or you're sitting as a mass, and nobody's wearing masks and nobody's doing any sort of social distancing. They're setting themselves up for contracting the virus, and they're certainly setting themselves up for potentially being on a close contact list, which then the anger gets turned back to us as a school district with who's on the list, who's not on the list, those types of things. So I don't want to get into that right now, but my vote is that we don't have students in our crowd right now. That's my vote. I would just prefer not to have our students at our events.
I think
because they won't self-discipline.
Item E is our return to school plan. We said specifically at the last school board meeting, and I heard very well put out by our announcers at the last volleyball game, that we were going to take a hard look at how people chose to sit at the volleyball game. And that is on there for item E. If we want to talk about it right now, I don't think there's anything problem with us making a decision on that here as we're discussing it.
I can go through some other things that I have on my list if you want to, until we get down there. It's up to you.
If you guys want to address it now, or do you want to wait?
Either or.
Well, let's hit it now.
Let's hit it, yep.
Let's just knock out these COVID issues. Jim, if we're going to knock out the COVID issues, I also want to make sure I do an explanation of the emails last week from the Department of Health and the Department of Education, the phone calls from parents who were upset that they couldn't get their kids back into school with our new policy. I think it's important we address that at tonight's meeting. So you tell me when you're done with COVID, and then I'll hit the COVID, and let's just knock COVID out right here.
So these are the other things that I have on here that are associated with COVID. Just briefly, the classes, I think, in school are going quite well. Our numbers, when you consider the number of people that have been tested, is actually a good thing that we don't have as many positive cases. The distance learning, as far as I know, is going smoothly. We've been in contact with parents who have any sort of concern, if they have a request for a different course that they want to take. We're finding more and more about, finding out more about Excellis as we go. The students that need to be challenged more, we know that there are means to do that, and then the students that maybe perhaps aren't at the same level, we're able to accommodate them as well. Calendar-wise, there's some things that I think we need to discuss. The school activities, many people are asking, are we having homecoming? Right now, I believe we're going to have homecoming. It's my understanding the majority of the schools have modified them very little in their school systems. I think, as you and I had discussed a little bit, there might be some things we need to do at the parade with respect to throwing candy and collecting candy and kids being in the little mass groups that we have, those types of things. And then I had spectators as one of our activities as well. So I also wanted to mention some things about the funding portion of it. We have the GEAR Act money. We've learned that the governor's just kind of putting that on hold, and there's additional money that we will find out a little bit more about. Lori's got some information that we're going to get an additional amount of money. It sounds like there's going to be some freedom in the money, but we're not sure exactly what else is going to be tied to it. It is supposed to be used for COVID-like expenses or things associated with COVID. And so we'll learn more about that as time goes on here. And then other calendar things. I have teachers that are starting to ask, what about parent-teacher conferences and what about in-service? My take on those, I would like to recommend that what we do is keep the calendar as it is, and with the parent-teacher conferences, perhaps modify it. I sent out an email to the entire staff asking what they have for suggestions and what they would like to do, what they're comfortable doing with respect to parent-teacher conferences. And it appears that probably what we would do is provide either Zoom sessions by appointment or phone calls by appointment. If there truly are parents that want to come in, the teachers have requested that if we do that, we do it so that they can be far enough apart in a classroom they don't have to actually wear a mask, because the communication with the masks on is a challenge, there's no doubt about it. So we're coming up with some ideas, but I'd like to leave the calendar as is. We still get out early that fall parent-teacher conferences so that it gives us some time to set up appointments to meet with the parents that we hope to. And then, what was the other one? Oh, the regional in-service. The speakers and the regional in-service itself has been canceled, but I'd like to keep our in-service dates in place. I believe that's going to be some valuable planning time, recovery time, refreshing time for our staff. We already have potentially some behavioral management training that can happen, the first in-service in October, and I can certainly tell you that we can find some positive things to work on in the later October in-service. So those are kind of all the things associated with the calendar, in-service, all those types of things when it comes to COVID. That's what I had on my list for COVID.
Okay, well, let me hit on, let's knock out these calendar issues, and then we'll talk about our policies for getting students back, and then we can talk about the Armory game policy and whether we want to do something with masks in the hallway with the secondary. So homecoming was the first issue you addressed, and right now the recommendation is to continue forward with maybe some modifications as the administration sees. Any issues with that, gentlemen?
You mentioned throwing candy out and such. That's part of the parade. You got all this work in the school with masks or whatever, and we throw candy out and they get in the mob after the candy.
Well, what I would propose that we do in the candy part is perhaps have the people that normally throw candy just donate it to the school or provide it to the school so that it can be distributed in a more organized fashion, controlled fashion in the school.
Yeah, those kids are all going to run out there and
just divvy it out, equal it out a little bit, and of course the principal would get more. And then divvy it out to the classrooms equally.
Yeah,
just so we don't have that mob.
A lot of those kids aren't even in the school that are running out there for candy. You know, it's kind of, that's part of the parade, but it's,
You know, and as far as all the other businesses in town that partake in the parade, I would assume, I would hope they just follow our policy. If we have a no candy policy, they're all gonna follow suit. We're all in this together.
And if we were to have the elementary, you know, Dr. Block and I were discussing if we would have the elementary walk in the parade, you know, instead of gathering in front of St. John's, possibly just, they would go right to their parents. Or if not, if they don't have a parent there, then they would come right back into the school and we'd get ready to dismiss them at the end of the day. So that was our first thoughts on that.
Sounds good. I think everybody's in agreement. Let's just go ahead with homecoming right now as is, and whatever changes, modifications, administration feels are appropriate, go ahead and do. Parent-teacher conferences, I believe was the second issue you brought up, wanting to continue with them, but have them set up so they're either teleconferences or Zoom meetings. Sounds like a fantastic idea. I don't see any reason to change it. I think parent-teacher conferences are important. And anybody else on the board? Reason to change that? I think we're good. Okay. Third thing was the in-service. You know, the only thing I would throw out, Jim, I mean, I know we have the days built in there. I think it's tough to change, when you've already said that this day is going to be off and you've got it out there on the calendar. I think a lot of parents and families make plans about it, but you know, it may get down closer towards the end of the year. We may want to use some of those days just to get through the school year. I mean, you know, if we can knock out every day we get closer, I'd rather be out May 1st because we completed all of our days than we waited for an in-service day in October or November. Does that make sense?
Yes. And if you want to consider adding one of those back in, I would recommend that it be the later one in October, because that was our regional in-service. And that date, we didn't really get to choose where it fell in our calendar because we were working together with 7 other districts. And so it wouldn't be in there if we weren't participating in the regional in-service anyway, if that makes sense.
It does.
Where it's located on the calendar.
Maybe an extra day. I mean, we're not keeping track of, I mean, technically for attendance anyway, so I mean, if somebody's going to have an absence, they're going to have the absence. Is that something we want to consider, or?
When is it, Jim? Do you know?
It is October
23rd, I think, isn't it?
Yes, we have a regular in-service scheduled on the 2nd of October, and then we have the 23rd is a Friday, and that was the regional in-service.
When's conferences?
Conferences are on Thursday, the 1st. And typically what we've been doing the last 3-4 years is we have conferences on a Thursday, and then we have an in-service on Friday, so it's not a full-fledged school day with the students, and it gives us time for some professional development the day after and conferences.
What do you guys think?
Let's see here. Yeah, today is the 14th. If you didn't decide tonight, you would decide October 12th, which would only be a week and a half before, and I think that'd be too late.
I think we should do either a thumbs up or either we're going with it or we're not going with it tonight, gentlemen, not kicking the can down the road. So you want to have school or have the in-service? Because right now what we're talking about, the recommendation is for sure go forward with the October 2nd in-service. The question is, do we want to have the October 23rd in-service and do school that day? Am I correct?
There's volleyball at Redfield that night.
23rd?
No football.
So, I mean, kids are going to be getting together anyway that Friday.
Is that changing your calendar?
It would just shift one more day there, that if we had a snow day, you wouldn't have to make that up, or you could get out a day sooner,
Is
or...
Is that an issue at all?
No, that's not hard to adjust.
Yeah, I think the last football game was October 15th or 16th.
Yeah. So are you thinking, Larry, have school the 23rd and just get a day knocked out? Is that when you were giving the thumbs up?
Either or.
Better.
16th
You
was
want to keep the
accessible.
calendar as it was, so. But if the calendar isn't an issue, then,
I'd say get the day knocked out.
yeah, then if the calendar's not an issue, yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'm good with it.
What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah.
well if we get a day in sooner than later.
I think get a day in sooner rather than later. I like how you said that, Aaron. I mean, what do you think, Marty?
On a normal year, I would say we should leave it, but this year with COVID the way it is, I think if we can go, we should go.
I agree. I really like the way you said it. If we can get it a day earlier or sooner rather than later, let's do it. Let's go ahead and have school the 23rd, and
Can we have a motion for that, please?
you bet.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second? Thank you, Aaron. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, so that takes care of all of the dates there, correct, Jim?
I believe so.
Okay, before we get to the, go ahead.
One thing, a question on the COVID related, had some people talk about lunch, kind of a short span for eating lunch. Would that fit in the COVID here? Was it staggering or whatever? Some people have said their kids don't have time to eat their lunch. They don't.
Is that an elementary issue?
I don't know, I haven't had any calls
I've had
come
some
my way.
Parents ask that, and of course.
Oh, if you could, just direct them my way, and then we could see pinpoint where it's at.
Yeah.
And see.
I know sometimes we get them come in the store for sandwiches, this or that, but that's been the comment.
Well, if you come to the elementary when they're eating, a lot of it is a lot of socializing. So we're always reminding them, time to eat, 5 or 7 minutes left, 5 minutes left, so.
Sure.
It's a great time to talk, and I want kids to talk, but yet when I sometimes say 5 minutes left, it's like shovel, and then they might be back to eating, or I mean, back to talking again.
Just actually, how long is their time to eat once they're sat down?
Elementary, I think we're at about 25 minutes. But that's
leaving.
That's when they're lining up though, so some of them are, the ones that are at the end of the line don't have that much time.
High school, I monitor the high school, and it's, unless they really are fooling me, I don't think it's an issue at all. They're able to get through the line, eat, go through seconds, and have it. Occasionally, like when we had pizza, and sometimes when we have like walking tacos where there's a lot of seconds, there might be some students that are eating when it gets close to 1:15. But I usually will tell them, you don't need to rush. I can reverse your tardies to homeroom because they're headed to homeroom. So I try to let them know that it's, they don't have to run out the door because there's time.
I've had a few comments, so.
And usually for those that are, taking their time or need more time, we say, yeah, go ahead, finish. When you're done, then go.
Okay. Could that change with the projected numbers? If it's free, we might have a lot more eating.
Lori and I discussed that a little bit today. Our kitchen staff is going to have to make sure they make adjustments, and we'll adjust as we need to. If we truly do have a lot more that are going to eat, then
that would be a
we'll
good
make
problem.
those adjustments.
Good problem.
That would be a good problem, yes.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see that with the breakfast program, because breakfast program right now is pretty small.
Yes.
So we might.
But still, we serve, if they get here, because we start serving at 7:50 in the morning.
Yeah.
So, they just have to get here earlier. We have plenty of time set aside.
If they all show up at 10 after 8 and want to eat
That's
at
a
the same
problem.
time, then that's a bottleneck issue. But that doesn't matter with COVID versus a regular year.
All right. Anything else before we hit our return to school plan issues that we had pop up last week? Jim was able to send out the group emails to us. So just for everybody in the audience, as you'll recall, on September 2nd, we had a special board meeting, I believe it was September 2nd, in order to adopt a back-to-school plan for individuals that tested negative on day 7. If they tested negative and continued to remain symptom-free and wore a mask from days 7 through 14, we would allow them back to school. I believe that was the basic impetus we put together, because we've had many individuals ask us, They didn't think they were within the quarantine group for whatever reason, or, excuse me, weren't a close contact, even though the Department of Health identified them as a close contact, or they had gotten their negative tests and they wanted to get their children back to school. We agreed on that. I thought Larry did a good job making that motion. We sent that information off, I believe, the following day, September 3rd, to the Department of Health and Department of Education. Jim sent that information off. He confirmed it with the email to us. I believe John put a nice paper or article in the paper. Everybody kind of heard about it. It was also out on an email. And so I do know that we were contacted by parents that wanted to take advantage of that. Well, then unfortunately, I believe it was Thursday, we started to receive emails, and specifically there were 3 of them that day, from the Department of Education and the Department of Health. The first email specifically stated that school districts, 1, were able to, we recommend following CDC guidelines, but it's still a local school board decision. All right, we're good. Email number 2, you need to follow CDC guidelines, and maybe you really should follow CDC guidelines, and that all of a sudden raised the red flag with, I believe, Jim and Craig, because we had one student literally looking to come back that day, I believe at noon, because they were day 7 into their quarantine, they had received the negative test, they were going to wear the mask, they were doing everything properly. And then approximately 1:30 that afternoon, if I understand properly, we received another email from the Department of Education and the Department of Health, which basically said, not mandating it, but highly, highly encouraging, you must follow and you should follow the CDC guidelines. There is no way to come back to school prior to day 14. You need to follow the CDC guidelines, day 14, et cetera, et cetera. Am I paraphrasing correct the emails there? And that was about 1:30 that day. So at that point in time, Jim made the call, which was the correct call, because it also talked about liability in there. And if superintendent or principal was to allow somebody to come back, they could be putting their school district at exposure. Jim sent out the emails to us, says we need to address this at the next school board meeting. I appreciate you doing that, Jim, and I apologize to any patrons. Jim Block, Dr. Block, Craig Case absolutely did the right thing. This is a school board decision, and once the Department of Health and the Department of Education in Pierre were changing the rules of the game, they had to wait till tonight before we could make another decision. Then just today, I don't know if everybody got it, but the Association of South Dakota School Boards sent out a mass email. Did everybody receive that here today?
No, it said on the bottom, Tom, that it went to presidents, vice presidents, and superintendents.
Okay, so I will read, it's a 2.5-page email, extremely specific, and I'll just try to read through it so we all have the same information. So bear with me. There's been quite a buzz after the Department of Education stated during the weekly Zoom meeting on Thursday, September 10th, that only the school boards could decide whether or not to exclude from school attendance students who have been in close contact with a person who tested positive for COVID-19. It goes ahead and then lists the relevant state statute. It goes on to give its analysis as follows. If the school has received written notice from Department of Health or written documentation of the Department of Health phone call that a specific student has been told to self-quarantine, Association of South Dakota School Boards of South Dakota and the CASA, I apologize, what's that? Board of Directors, whatever that acronym is, think the notice from the Department of Education to a school that a student should be self-quarantined for 14 days would constitute concurrence by the Department of Health for excluding the student from the school. Further, they believe that written notice from the Department of Health of a student being recommended to self-quarantine for 14 days would provide protection from a school district should the district get challenged after excluding a student from attendance. The question has been asked, what is the liability exposure of a school board should it decide not to follow Department of Health recommendations and the school lets a student who had close contact return/remain in school? Their answer is that plaintiff's attorneys, i.e. somebody suing the school district, would most certainly make an issue of the district not following the Department of Health and CDC recommendations on the issue. Not being able to, they go through a lot of analysis. A related question is whether a school could utilize a quarantine room for students who have been identified as having close contact. Again, they don't recommend that. Third, the board and the board of directors think that a school board policy should be required if we are going to bring everybody back in. Once again, exactly what we did last week. But the basic bottom line of this paragraph or this document is they're putting it back on the school districts to say, look, our advice is 14 days. You're kind of going outside your lane if you do anything differently. And I mean, there's been numerous emails and conversations since last Thursday. I have the 10 pages of emails here that Jim sent off and that we also got from the South Dakota school boards today for anybody that wants to review them. The question basically comes down, what do we want to do on that, gentlemen? I thought it was a really good policy that we came up, reasoned, well thought through. I did not hear any negative feedback from any parents. The parents that contacted me that wanted to bring their kids back to school last week was due to the specific fact that they believe it's difficult for their students and their children to learn through distance learning. They wanted to get their kids back. They were willing to pay to go get the test done. That's where we're at. What do we want to do, guys?
And I just want to be clear for the people watching, and to make sure that I have this right, Tom, but we have the governor's office telling it's up to the local school boards. You guys make the decisions that best fit your district. That's what we did.
Correct.
3 days later, we've got the governor's Department of Health saying, whoa, wait a minute, we don't agree.
Correct.
With the governor's statement, and so we as a school board, we're kind of caught here. And I, personally, I'm ready to dig my heels in and test this thing, except for the liability issue. That's what has me a little concerned.
But we were asking for a test after day 7.
Correct.
Correct. Correct.
Now we do 14 with no testing from day 1 through 14.
Correct.
Yeah.
No testing at all.
They could be positive on day 12 and we're letting them back in the building.
Correct. And the 14 days they're quarantined, do we know, depending on the child, do we know where they've been in the 14 days?
They've been hanging out at Larry's house.
Did they go to Minneapolis for 14 days, or did they go? But they can come back.
Jim, now you mentioned tonight that we're not the only district wrestling with this right now, correct?
I would bet this is the topic of conversation for every board that is meeting this evening. I am aware of one other school district in our area that is planning to implement, I believe they may have met earlier today, in which they're going to go with allowing students to come back after the 10th day if they had a negative test and were asymptomatic.
And that really, according to the statute, day 7 to 10 doesn't buy us any legal correction.
Nope.
No, 14 is...
14 is 14.
is 14.
Yep.
I just think we're just getting our feet wet with positive tests here. And I mean, I think it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And this policy is going to become more important and important, trying to keep kids in the building.
I think it's a good policy. I mean, I'd like to keep it, but the only concern is I also don't want Webster to be the test case. I mean, how much exposure do we want? I mean, how much risk do we want to take, gentlemen?
This is off the subject just a touch, but I'd rather work towards preventing them from getting it rather than dealing with it after it's here.
I was just thinking that.
Well, then that's the other two issues that we have.
The other two issues that we need to talk about play right into this.
But we're getting tests if we do the policy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Without the policy, we're getting no tests.
Correct. Well, Marty, are you saying you'd like to address the other two issues? I mean, Marty, is that what you're?
No, I'm just saying that, we're dealing with the back end of it. I'd rather, not that I don't want to deal with this, but I think the front end is probably just as important as the back end, if not more important.
So let's hit those two issues then right now. I mean, we've debated this issue, and I think we came really close last meeting to going to, if I remember kind of the straw vote count, I think we were awfully close to a ticket versus a tier 2 or tier 3 position. We were trying to do a modification of giving tickets, but we wanted to give one more last shot. Where are we at on that? Do we want to keep it wide open as is, or do we want to move to tier 2, tier 3, or do we want to move to a ticket system?
Do you know, have other schools made any adjustments on what they're doing since school started?
I know that Millbank started with the ticket system immediately. They didn't make that decision based on what tier they were in. They just simply said, we're starting from the get-go where we're going to provide, I think it was 5 tickets or 6 tickets to each athlete would get that to give to family members.
Redfield was?
Redfield was right away.
Warner was right away.
Warner was right away.
Did I hear, this is rumor, did Clark just switch recently?
Clark just switched it's between tier 2 and tier 3. They are actually not going to allow anybody other than parents at the game for our students to go to on Thursday. And that's junior high through high school. So on Thursday, anybody that's planning to go to Clark, you must be a parent of an athlete. No other spectators are allowed, not even siblings of the athletes are allowed to that game. And that's what Clark chose today. Clark County is in a moderate phase for the number of cases, and Day County's in a moderate phase in corresponding with their superintendent. They have additional cases and in their school system than what we have, and they also have more parent cases that are positive, which are affecting students as close contact.
If you do a ticket system, what could you seat in the Armory and social distance, 500?
We haven't measured it out.
I'm just throwing a number out
Yeah.
there, but if we're talking 6 tickets per student, or let's use basketball, if there's 15, 12 on each team, and then JV, whatever, pretty soon, do we have 60 athletes getting 6 tickets? Then we're
If you have, like our football team only has 22 or 23 athletes. Our volleyball is closer to 30. If you just said it was 30 and you had 6, you're 180 people.
What about the visiting?
For our side.
The visiting.
Their side would have whatever number of athletes they have times 6.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, we could easily hit 500 possibly.
In the facility, yeah.
Can we handle 500 with a ticket system?
I don't think you're gonna get that many.
Well, I'm just saying, if we're.
I understand
fine,
it
but-
could happen, but.
Warner was 4, right?
There's a smaller than 6, but I don't know
I
what
think it was,
exactly.
I thought I heard Warner, pretty sure
Yeah.
from the volleyball, it was 4 tickets.
With the tickets.
Mike
they-
says it's 4. for
With the
Warner.
tickets, they wouldn't have to be parents.
Correct. That's why I kind of like the tickets, because it allows, if you want to do aunt, uncle, grandparent, or friend, or something, I kind of like that versus, Clark obviously saying just parents. They're hitting her hard. But, if you look at the traditional Northeast Conference, Millbank, Sisseton, Redfield, Clark, that's 4, the big, there used to be, 10 of us in the conference? No? Maybe
All the students from the other schools are gonna come here because they can.
They did at the Millbank game.
Because they can.
Millbank game, and then they sat behind our bench. That was
Yeah,
ridiculous.
But they can at their home.
Correct.
And I was also informed by an area superintendent that the masks is it's difficult to enforce. There are schools that are have tried to require masks at games and failed at enforcing it.
Didn't Grove just change theirs? I think I saw it in the paper the other day.
They had a,
They were gonna require it, and then.
then they had a very heated, it was in the paper, heated school board meeting in regards to it.
And then they changed it to highly suggested.
Correct, I believe that was what it was.
I believe in their case that, well, I know their superintendent said that he believes they actually have a higher number of people actually wearing them now because it's highly recommended versus telling somebody what to do. Sometimes our freedoms are our own downsides or downfall.
I guess I'll be honest, I'm worried about us, if we see other districts are doing it, I think we should be ahead of the curve. I want us, if we're gonna keep playing sports, be able to play the sports. I think it's just lucky. I mean, my son Gavin got hit with the first quarantine hand grenade there. He was at the game Tuesday night next to the kid and Wednesday in school next to the kid. So either way, he was out. But if he, my oldest son, if he wouldn't have been at, would have had that 6 feet at the game, would not have been. He would not have been in school next to him. And I think it was approximately 6 kids that we had were from the volleyball game and 10 were from school. Well, that's 6 more kids that we could have had back in school. And we all saw this weekend, I watched a lot of college football, and college football was able to have their kids, you saw the bands, you saw them all social distancing, and they were able to play college football games, and kids were sitting apart. I mean, I think Notre Dame, you saw they limited the number of people that were in there, and those fans were spaced out across from each other.
The rest of the students are quarantined in their dorms.
Correct.
So if you go to the ticket system, I'm just curious, does Millbank, they don't have a student section then at all? If you go to like a 4 or a 5?
I don't know, but that would be something that I would recommend, is that our student section is kind of completely obliterated. If we have tickets and students are able to come, they really should not be sitting together in even a small mob of students, because then they're.
Okay, now I'm gonna go back to what we were talking about before. If we take care of ourselves and we don't put ourselves into a situation where we're gonna get it, then that 7 or 14 day thing doesn't really even come into play if we stay healthy.
Correct.
Agreed.
We obviously have to go away from an open system, a tier 1. We know we're leaving that, don't we? I think we're leaving the tier 1.
So you're saying, well, what if the students say, well, my mom and dad are coming and I got 3 more tickets, I'll just give those to my buddies?
I don't want them sitting together, is what I'm saying. I want them sitting with their parents as a family, and then that way the units are, the family units they're the small groups versus crossing over, and that's my biggest hang up with the students. And I can't blame them. They're not going to self-discipline.
They're kids. That's what you do.
They're just not going to, and so I think we're providing them an opportunity that's going to do one of 2 things, or one of 3 things. They'll be fine. They're either going to get the virus because they're within somebody that has it, or they're going to be placed on that close contact list. That's your 3 options, and so 2 out of 3 is really not working in your favor. In my opinion, it would be better. And I think in the long run, it's going to be better for both of our actually all 3 of our athletic programs, because cross-country is not out of the loop either. You can't have close contact issues with cross-country. When we provide those opportunities for the kids to mob together, we're not doing that in the classrooms. They're close, but they're not mobbing together. You're providing that opportunity for one of those 3 things, or 2 of those things to happen. And it's eventually going to negatively affect our football team. It will eventually negatively affect our volleyball team, and it could potentially negatively affect our cross-country team, depending on the students
and the school
who have it, ultimately the school.
I gotta believe Mr. Mines would have rather had those 6 kids at the football game in Groton.
The other issue that you run into is, and this is something every single school district is facing now, with this close contact list, rather than it being okay, we need to keep our kids safe, we need to keep other people safe by keeping our kids quarantined, it isn't that. It's, why is my child on this close contact list when this child is not? And that is not the intent, folks. That's the absolute opposite of what we're trying to do here. And the reality is, I think most parents want their children in school. We do want that. But if we leave everything wide open, we're probably providing more opportunities for us to see us go into quarantines.
I was sure hoping after our last meeting, we put it out there, that we had a game the next night, that we would have saw some social distancing, but.
Slightly better. It wasn't enough.
What are we seeing in other towns? I mean, in the Britons, Grotons, Sissetons, I mean, how are their crowds doing? Are they social distancing any better than we are, or the same?
I can't speak to varsity level. I haven't been to any varsity level out of town.
Same as us.
Same.
Mike would know as well as anybody.
Same everywhere.
Well, Larry, are you making a motion we go to a ticket system or to a different tier?
Well, the number, but I think we're leaving tier 1. I mean, the bulk of the other districts in our area have left, are not at an open.
Aaron, what do you think?
Are they getting together anywhere else after the activities?
We can't control
I
it.
know, but
One thing that I would say to that, I think you're absolutely 100% right, and we can't control that, but I would say that it's smaller groups. You know, even if they're getting together at a house and there's 10 kids there, 10 students is still way smaller than 50 students packed together in our student section.
I would make a motion to go to a ticket system, and if that doesn't work, then we go to a tier 4 or tier 3 or,
Okay. How many tickets?
So to clarify, tier 2 is student body plus 6 tickets?
No, the
No.
tiers have no tickets.
Tiers have no tickets. Tickets are just kind of a way of taking the best of both of the tiers, because tier 2, if I remember right, is student
and parents.
Essential and preferred are allowed at events. Tier 3, non-essential is not allowed.
Tier 4 is nobody.
Tier 4 is, no events. They're all closed to unsafe conditions. Well, actually, tier 3.
So what are we getting with tier 2?
You have a couple of options. You can do kind of what we're doing is, if we're on tier 2, but we're not ready to say it's just parents, you can, it leaves it open for some options.
Gives more, the ticket system gives flexibility to the athlete and the family versus tier 2 or tier 3, we start. If tier 3, we shut it down.
If we do the ticket system, how does that affect the student body?
They're going to have to have,
I'm sorry.
If we do the ticket system, how does that affect the student body?
The only way student body would be able to come is if they receive tickets from
an athlete.
You know, if Johnny only has his parents coming, and then he's got, if you're giving out 6, then he's got 4 that he could give to students. And that's where I was kind of stating to Joe, when you had mentioned something, I would prefer not to have the student section as a student section. I would, you know, if that happens, we can't deny them because they have a ticket, but I think we can manage them to say, let's not congregate in a small area here, because then you're defeating the purpose of us having a limited capacity.
You know, I gave the example last week, or at our last meeting, about my experience at a junior high football game trying to social distance. And 2 of the 3 people that sat around me called the next day and apologized. And I said, it wasn't about, you know, I wasn't casting blame, I was trying to make an example of it. It's not always as easy as you think it is. And so, what are we gonna do if we go to this ticket system? How are we going to get the parents to social distance? Unless we put on the seats, you know, an X here, an X, you know, to try to get these people the distance. How do we enforce that?
What about the?
How do we go to the opposing side and tell the Millbank people, split up, you know?
I said Mike, because he's.
I said Mike.
All right.
I'll share something that happened when we closed that section. He had probably 10 pieces of paper across there. People were sitting on top of the section closed signs.
Yep.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, hey, if you, I've seen Mike have to try to control crowds at wrestling tournaments. It's parents get out of control, they get protective, they want to be there, they're going to do what they're going to do, so how do we combat that?
And tickets going to the competing school, we have no control over those tickets, they go there.
We have the number.
Yes, there'd be a number, they would have.
The bottom line is if we do a ticket, you're just limited the number of people that's in it.
It's limited capacity.
That's what, you're just limiting capacity. It is what it is, the number will be, whether they give them out or they don't. The tier, either we leave it wide open, or we hit one of the tiers.
I think until people really want to stay free of it, they're gonna socialize. You know, if they're gonna back off and say, you know, give me some room here, I don't wanna be sitting right next to you, and it's just to keep me and my family safe. And that's, when that happens, then everybody's gonna be in these little pods, and we'll have a group here, and a group here, and a group here. But until that happens, people are gonna do what people do. We're all gonna socialize, we're all gonna hang around, we're all gonna talk, but I agree, if we go to the tickets, we're cutting the number down, I don't know what percentage-wise, but it's fewer, and I agree with the student body, saying the student body shouldn't, because I know how they are, you go to a game and they're just like, it's just as big of a social session as it is watching the game for some of them.
Right, absolutely, and that's okay. But right now, normal times. Here's what, I have no problem. We can't make a decision where everybody's gonna be happy.
Right.
We can't. They're not gonna be happy if they get hit on the quarantine list, you know, and they're not gonna be happy if they get hit on the quarantine list and they say, I wasn't next to that kid, I wasn't there, and the South Dakota Department of Health still says, yes, you were, you're hit on the 14 days. Right back to there. I mean, if the Department of Health says that little Tom, little Bob, little John are on that quarantine list because they were within that close contact, with what we're getting from the Department of Health and the Department of Education is, right now, we need to follow that. I think that we do have to make some decisions here to try to keep it going, because I would hate to see that night, that volleyball incident could have just as easily have been 5 girls basketball players, you're starting 5 girls basketball players. You're 5 starting boys basketball players. You know, I think you're gonna see, as Jim said, the wrestling team. You know, if the wrestling team shows up with 8 kids, you know, and they're 8 wrestlers, I mean, easier, I mean, you have less subs in wrestling, correct?
Correct.
If we want to keep sports, then I think we have to make some harder decisions. And if Sisseton can do it, if Millbank can do it, if Redfield can do it, if Clark can do it, geez, I gotta believe we can do it here in Webster. Are we that incapable? Tier 3 makes it easy, like Clark did, but I don't think it makes it fair.
What are the student body losing by not being there? What part of their educational, you know, process are they not getting because they're not getting to attend these games? Is there any loss there?
I mean, it's all part of school spirit and supporting team.
Socializing. You know, the volleyball, it's the spirit, pretty darn good with the kids. Football, when you look at outside, I don't know, we haven't talked about that. You have a bunch of kids over in the corner running here and there. I mean, there's no spirit there. They're not cheering on the Bearcats.
Mm-hmm.
That's all socializing.
Well, I'm gonna call the question. Larry, you made a motion to move to a ticket system.
To move out away from tier 1.
Move away from tier 1? Okay, what do you wanna move to, Larry? What's the motion?
I guess I'd do a motion for 6 tickets.
Okay, we have a motion by, and is that for all events, Larry?
At this time, and can we do 4 tickets for the visitors? 6 for the home?
Well, that's a good question.
Sorry, that's funny. Well, we want a home field advantage, we'll crowd support here. No, 6.
You'll never know.
I'm not against that, so you want to do 6 and 4? No. Wow, Larry.
I don't want to sit at a Northeast Conference meeting and make that statement.
Just claim ignorance.
Yeah.
All right, so Larry, you got a motion to do 6 tickets.
And the athlete, it's their choice who they give them to, right?
Okay.
Is that how it's set up?
Yep. Second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Marty. Any further discussion?
If it's a 6 ticket, then of course, I would think the next step would be tier 4.
If, does Tom, do your kids get 6 tickets or 12 tickets? Because you have 2 kids if they were playing the same sport. I hate to
Fair
use
question.
it as
No,
an
that's
example,
fair.
but I just want to clarify.
No, that is absolutely a fair question.
6 tickets per athlete per family.
I agree with you. I think it should be that.
Larry made the motion here. I think he's got to clarify his motion.
Oh, my.
Don't we change it to 4?
No, what was your intent?
I think that makes sense, though, with the 6 per
Well,
family.
that's
Per family?
That's why we talked, if we can
Yeah.
hold 500 and if we have 60 athletes on both teams, that's under 500, which I think we could do here at the Armory, I'm thinking.
Otherwise, if you get 12, you're gonna start an underground,
Well, I mean, if both your kids
start
are,
making some cash.
if both your kids are on the team. Now, we talk varsity and JV and everything, are
There
we,
you go.
how far down are we going here?
I can tell you, I heard an example from the Warner game, and Mike, you may have heard about this. There was a parent there who had a daughter in the JV volleyball. He had a ticket, and after JV got done, he stayed for the A game, and they kicked him out, and he was upset, and there was quite a ruckus about that. He says, I have a ticket. And the soup said, or whoever was in charge said, you have a ticket for the C game, not the A game.
How did they decipher those tickets?
I don't know, but did you hear about that, Mike?
I heard a little bit about it.
Do I have that sort of correct?
Yeah, the other question would be 7th and 8th grade where we're not charging and they're already in the facility.
But we've cleared people out before.
Yep.
I mean, I think the way it should be just the high school level and above. I mean, we're talking about freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, C, B, and A. If the JV, if we've got the grade school, the 7th and 8th grade, we need to clear the gym out and just let people back in. I mean, that's the only way you can do it.
I don't know if it'd be possible for us to just do the, well, it's pretty tight for the junior high here. And I only say that when we had junior high here, there wasn't a lot of space for people to social distance.
The volleyball here was
just moms and
absolutely
dads
packed.
over there.
And I think that was just parents.
Yep.
It's
Well,
just
that's
too
what it
small.
was, but-
Yeah, if you do students and parents, like Marty, you know, they're gonna congregate, but you have a lot of people that support, that want to attend, that do social distance. If they're not a parent or a student, they're,
Well, here, at least they could have a chance to get a ticket from people that
yeah,
has
some
that
of the
ability.
people that really support the programs that do social distance and that, I mean, we, you know,
So-
hate to take that away.
With middle school, we would just be under the assumption that there would not be a very large crowd to begin with. That probably is not gonna be anything close to what we would want to limit at, you know, in comparison to high school. And then we would ask folks to depart the building, and then come back in with tickets.
And I think it makes sense that if we clear out the junior high, start all over, and if you've got a ticket for the B boys basketball game, you can stay for the A boys basketball game. If you've got a ticket for the B girls basketball game, you know what I mean? You're still talking probably 20 athletes, 25 athletes. That's the intent.
I suppose we're sort of fixing that problem by 6 tickets per athlete, per family.
Per family, correct.
That's maybe hopefully gonna take care of some of the issue that I brought up there, because I think that through.
Yep.
What's to prevent somebody from taking one of these tickets and sticking it on a photocopy machine and going, now comes 30 more?
It's possible that you could number them, but I don't know who's gonna keep track of,
That,
Warren,
you're now taking all tickets in Webster for bringing that idea up on Bearcat TV. That's how that
we
works.
probably have some really old paper that nobody can get a hold of that, I mean, it could be a color that you probably would be difficult time to find.
That's what Warner had, like gray, I think.
And then do different colors.
Yeah, different colors for different games, yeah.
We have some construction paper that's faded on the end, so we could do that.
I don't like having to do this, Tom, but I understand the reason that we have to do it. You know, we tried leaving it open, it didn't work. And now we have to take corrective action. And I hope the public's listening. Because I do not want to go to the next step. But I guess we're all in control of our destiny.
Correct. All right, so we've got the motion by Larry, let's make sure we got it right. 6 tickets per athlete, maximum of 6 tickets per family. This is only for the high school, 9 through 12, or whatever, CBA games.
Varsity level.
Varsity level.
Be a JV varsity.
JV varsity level. Junior high, we're not limiting, but we will remove them from the Armory before we start letting more people back in. That might be a little bit of a rigmarole, but it's just, we have to maybe do something with our scheduling to give them more time in between there. Is that the correct motion, Larry?
If that will work with staff?
Well, I'm sure Mr. Mines is aware.
Well,
of
we don't
this
want to make a
whole
motion
process.
that we can't handle here. I mean, that's the most.
And there are other schools doing it, so we can contact them and find out what worked, what didn't, how we modified it so that it's working better.
And implement it here.
Yeah, because the earliest game we're going to implement this realistically is, we still don't have a game for quite a while here at
It's a
home.
week or two out.
Couple weeks.
Ticket takers are gonna need help enforcing that. That's quite a job for 3 little ladies sitting there. I know you were thinking it and didn't want to say it, so.
Lori, do you have any concerns from that position?
I mean, it is what it is. We'll just have to
It will
give a
come down
backup.
to Mr. Mines or myself
Yeah.
or Mr.
We'll
Case
just have to give a
asking
backup.
somebody to
I
leave.
mean, it's not their
if
issue to deal with.
So that we won't need the people in the ticket. Ooh, well, we.
Yeah, because it's changing the right to buy.
The option to buy.
Right, correct, yeah, okay, yeah.
And the athletes could turn their tickets in if they don't hand them out, correct? And then you could redistribute them?
No.
Sorry, I just saw some kid mad at dad and saying, you don't get it.
I think what we can do, at least right now, if other school districts have been able to do it, we should be able to implement it.
Yes.
With best practices. So we've got a motion by Larry, seconded by Marty. Go ahead and roll call the vote. We'll start with, Aaron, you're lucky you get off last. So, Marty?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
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 Okay, motion carries. All right, as to keeping on Marty's agenda, then let's fix the problem with the 7 to 14 day. Do we want to require masks in the hallway right now with high school students? Isn't that basically what you were saying, Marty?
I'm saying if they don't get it, we don't have to worry about the 7-day or the 14-day. But they're not gonna get it from,
The close contact thing, isn't it supposed to be 5 minutes? You're supposed to be buying for 5?
well, that's to get on the list.
15.
15, that's to get on the list to call, correct, from Pier?
Within 6 feet for 15 consecutive minutes during their exposure dates.
But it's not necessarily that you can contract it. It doesn't take 15 minutes to contract it.
Correct.
That's just their criteria.
Right.
The kids that got quarantined last time, they got a locker here. Did the people next to their locker, did they get quarantined?
No, that's an excellent question. We didn't do anything with the lockers because the lockers would never be a situation of 15 consecutive minutes. They better not be, they're hanging out
Right,
all the way.
that was the point I was trying to get to.
So, yeah, it's close contact, they're right by each other, but technically, the interchange at the lockers is not a close contact by definition. Because it's not gonna be 15 minutes long. It would be within 6 feet, but not 15 minutes long consecutively.
Is there potential hallway exposure for 15 minutes?
There shouldn't be, no. The only reason that I think it's important for the masks in the hallway is it's the good portion of our population crisscrossing, and you can cough on somebody, or you could sneeze, or you could...
Because you can catch it in a second.
You can catch it in a second, yes. And so there's that potential that you're just in a larger group of people, even though it's a shorter amount of time, it's not the 15 minutes.
I'll just throw out, Jim, I was in Omaha this weekend, and they've got a mask mandate down there, and it wasn't an issue. I mean, you saw hundreds, literally thousands of people walking around with their masks. We went to that outlet mall area down there, and it was funny, you're seeing kids, they're playing outside, tag, just in the area, where parents are in shopping, kids are playing. They all got their masks on, they're just running around and doing it. I actually think that to protect our staff, again, what you were bringing up, basically the issue, want to keep our staff in school. If we have a bigger problem with keeping the school running, it's because all of a sudden we start to lose staff members, can't find substitutes. I mean, which school district announced that they weren't having school just this week, or last week, because they could not find enough substitute teachers? I think just wearing a mask in the hallway is, for the 4 or 5 minutes, not that hard. I really don't think that's heavy lifting.
Yeah, keep in mind the other day, I think we had 2 or 3 substitutes in the building. You might have had one, I might have had 2. And I needed to get another one. I could not find another one.
Is that right?
Yeah. It just happened to be the day where, I have a long substitute list, but they were all busy or occupied with something else. So I got the word no instead of yes. So we did some schedules and made it work within the building to cover it. That was on just one day.
Probably would help us anyway with cold and flu season coming up. I mean, just going through the hallway, I mean, I just don't think that's a big deal.
I do not want to have to mandate a mask in the hallway. But every example I'm hearing is pushing me more towards that we need it. Go ahead, Aaron, I'm sorry.
Well, like you mentioned about Groton, they strongly recommended it, and then it turned out, rather than mandating it, just say the next step is mandating it. Just
don't we already with the high school kids though? I mean, right now I think it's strongly recommended. The high school kids have decided, nope. I mean, I talked to a grade school teacher today, and she's talking about all our kids are wearing masks. And she says, in the grade schools, she says, I would say it's 95 to 100% the kids are wearing the mask all day. Sometimes you have to remind them to take off their mask before they go get drink their milk or something like that. I mean, it's just, but it's the high school level where we're more confident.
Yeah, I got busted by an elementary kid. I was coming out of the office, I didn't have a mask, and Mr. Case, you need your mask. I was like, yep, that's right.
That's good. Aaron, do you think we'll have people's attention with limiting attendance to games to where maybe now the kids will listen to our strongly recommended? I mean, that's what I would like to think would happen.
Yeah, you would hope.
I can tell you that there will be high school students that will bucket to the nth degree.
Sure.
They will just say, I'm gonna wear one. And so then I need the authority to say you're going home if you're not gonna listen, when we get to that point. Because there's no reason to give a detention and have them sit in the office without a mask. To me, when insubordination, I call it insubordination, if we get to that point and they truly, truly want to make that statement, then we can make statements. I hope it doesn't get to that point, but.
Well, gentlemen, what do you want to do?
I'm in the strongly recommend camp right now. I would like to think that our kids could get their acts together in the hallways and wear the masks.
Okay.
What's the wording that they've been told?
Just strongly encouraged.
Strongly encouraged.
Big dots up like Target, so they think they're in Target.
You know what's going to happen? I think when this might fix itself is when we get to basketball season, and we don't get to go to a boys' basketball game or girls. The teams don't get to play because there's 7 of them in quarantine.
I think it'll come sooner when we have more students that are quarantined.
But actually, my question here, Joel, is not about so much Susan. When you first brought this issue up, it was about the staff members.
Absolutely.
In the, in the high school level. Doing a good job of taking care of our grade school teachers.
Well, I went into Target today, and I grabbed my mask. As I was getting close to the door, I put it on, and I walked out through Target, went back, looked at computer printers, and I walked out and I had my mask on the whole time, and when I got done, it was like, I just put it on and I took it off. It didn't cost me nothing, it didn't hurt me. There's no reason why they couldn't put them on and wear them. I mean, if there's a health reason for it, then I can see it, but I don't know of any health reasons for not putting one on.
Well, I've been in federal court, wear it for 3 hours. It is hard when you're arguing and talking continuously, and you don't really get that many breaks. It is hard.
But we're just saying the hallway, right?
But we're just talking about the hallway for like 5 minutes.
Yep.
So you're strongly recommend?
Yep.
Larry?
Recommend.
Strongly recommend?
Yeah.
I think they should wear them.
Mandate?
Strongly recommend.
Okay. Strongly recommends is at 3. I would vote actually in the hallways right now. I would mandate it, but it's 3-2. Let's see where it goes. All right. As to the return to school plan, what I would throw out, gentlemen, is we've got our plan in place with the 7 days. But right now, why don't we put a hold on that, at least to see what other school districts do tonight? I feel comfortable, at least from the way I read these emails, that how many superintendents were participating in these Zoom sessions, Jim?
Well, it's the majority of the superintendents along with other state agencies, so there's over 200 people in these Zoom sessions.
And like they said, it was quite the uproar last week during the Zoom session, correct? When
I couldn't see the other superintendents, but I'm guessing their heads were spinning. I mean, it was just like, wow, really?
So let's see if we can find out what other school districts are doing, and maybe if there gets to be enough of them that are taking the lead on this, and so it's not just us out in front on this issue, maybe we can readdress, and if necessary, Jim, have a special meeting, but let's put our 7-day just on hold until we get more guidance from what other districts are doing.
Wouldn't that 7-day, 14-day be is that the parent option or the school's demand?
It's parents' option.
Parents' option. Yeah.
I'm just.
Because if a parent says, I don't want to get the test and I'm just going to ride out the 14 days, they could ride out the 14 days. It'd be a parent option.
So if we put it on hold, then it's 14 days.
Correct.
So then.
The reason I like that plan is because these kids in high school with block scheduling, 1 day of block scheduling is equivalent to 2 days of
I agree.
traditional periods, so.
Yeah.
If you're out 10 days,
You're missing a significant part of this, the semester or the quarter.
how did the kids fare that were quarantined?
Good question.
I'm aware of some that didn't do so well, but I believe the majority of them did fine.
Do they have access with the teachers then, or the teachers got too much going on as it is?
Right now, we have a kind of a combination of things. We have some that are able to correspond via the Google Classroom, where there's really not a whole lot of instruction that's necessary. If the kids get what they need for materials and supply and resources, can do their work, turn it in, there's not a whole lot of instruction that needs to occur. And then I know some staff members have set up their laptop and started a Zoom session. They stay stationary at the front of the room so that they're always on camera, the teacher's on camera, and then those students who are at home are able to watch the instruction. And then there's yet some staff members that are recording the audio portion of their instruction and the, I don't know what you call it, the handwriting or the scripting on the Promethean boards. So they're seeing everything that's written on the Promethean board with the teacher's voice synced with that. The only thing they're not seeing is the teacher themselves. And so math is probably one of the main subjects that's important, very important. So we're seeing a combination of things where they do have access, but it's, it just depends on the teacher and the subject and what they're doing for instruction and assignments.
So is that strictly up to the teacher, whether they want to do that or not?
Right now, I haven't mandated that they record. I actually had asked the teachers which ones were comfortable doing that and said, please go forward. As you recall, we discussed this at the last meeting, and you guys said it was okay for us to move forward. We're not going to worry as much about the privacy issues. We want to contain them and try to prevent them, but also the issues of teachers being in front of parents to be critiqued on a daily basis. If they're willing to instruct that way, then they can. If they're not, then we expect that they record it. So those are the kind of the expectations that we have.
You know, maybe from that perspective, Aaron, maybe we just take the risk. You know, maybe we say, we've got our plan, it's the 7 days, negative test, at least we're requiring them to come back with a negative test, requiring them to mask up and we roll with it.
Yeah, the quarantine, you don't start out positive, you're just quarantined.
That's right.
Right, if you're positive, you're isolated. Quarantine is, we're keeping you away from.
You could be quarantined and be positive, not unknowing.
One of the frustrations that I'm learning about the positive case versus the close contact is the people who are being tested with the positive cases where they eventually are positive, they're usually in day 3 or 4 when their symptoms start showing up. And so then, I don't know how it's calculated, but the Department of Health determines when they believe they were exposed and contracted it, and then that's where they go out there, I think it's 10 days after their test. So they serve 10 days in isolation or quarantine, and yet somebody who was exposed to them the very last day before their testing has 14 days from that point. I mean, it's setting up the situation where technically the people who test positive are not in quarantine for 14 days, and those that are in close contact are.
Right.
It's frustration. I don't know how you overcome that frustration, but that's what's happening.
Are you then after 14 days not active?
They just don't know, because if you haven't been tested.
Yeah.
Even if you have?
If you test and you're negative, they're good with you, they don't care, they just make the 14 days.
If you test and you're positive,
then they make you isolate, and then they do the days from that day
Yeah.
when you test.
Yeah, so you could potentially even be in worst cases if you were in quarantine for 8 days and then tested positive, you got that 8 days, plus you'd have to finish out whatever they calculate for you, so.
so then if you do 14 days active, then you're cured.
No. 3 days after, no symptoms, no fever.
In quarantine, it's just you.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you're active, if you're positive, when do you go out in the world?
I think right now they're saying day 10.
It's 10 days after your
Whatever
symptoms start.
After you test positive?
No. I think it can be any date.
Yeah, my question is, when you test positive, when can you go back out in the world?
You have to be symptom-free before you can consider anything.
Well, if you're symptom-free at day 4.
Yep.
I think they still make them do 10.
Yeah, they
Right.
minimally do 10.
So we don't know, actually. I mean, we know 10.
And I think the 10 is existing because typically when you have symptoms, you're in day 3 or 4 possibly, not always, but I think that's...
Yeah, we're trying to solve something. We don't even know when it's contagious and when I'm good to go or not.
So what it comes down to, gentlemen, let's make a decision. Do we want to stick with our day 7, our policy we adopted, or do we want to put it on hold, or do we want to do something else? Let's call the question.
At least we came up with something with a little science behind it.
I agree.
My concern, I want to stick with it, but my concern is, we have this meeting tonight, and the Department of Health comes back tomorrow and starts firing emails at us. What do? I don't want to be flip-flopping on our patrons.
And I feel like that's the position we were at. We sent that off, patrons need to know, we sent that off immediately to the Department of Health. They chose to wait.
Upon the governor's recommendation that it's up to the local school districts, I want that made known.
And then we don't hear for 7 to 8 days, and then they
I
come
sent
down
the
like that.
message right around noon, 1 o'clock on Thursday, or excuse me, yeah, on Thursday the 3rd. And I received the phone call 10:30 this past Thursday. So it was almost 1 full week shy of a couple of hours.
Well, if we go ahead with this policy, are we gonna chase other parents? Are other parents gonna say, well, I'm not sending the kids to school then if they're coming back before the quarantine's over?
Yeah, that's what we debated last time, I agree. And I think for the most part, I didn't hear anything negative, and I actually talked with people who I consider to be on the more conservative side of the issue. They thought it was a good plan because they said reasonable minds, there has to be a way to get the kids back into school. Not worried about that part so much, I mean, whether it's just, I think the idea of whether the Department of Health is gonna flip-flop. Maybe we just need to put it on hold. Let's just see if some of these other school districts make a call here tonight. We've got a good policy. And maybe we just need to see what happens here in the next day or so, couple weeks, because everything changes, seems like, every day.
I'll be the first to say, let's freeze it, let's put it on hold.
Okay? Second. You'll second that, Marty? Aaron, you get to be third this time, Larry gets to be last.
What do you need?
So Joel says we're gonna put the policy on hold. Marty seconded it. Aaron, what do you say?
We could call a special meeting anytime.
Absolutely can. 24-hour notice, get a hold of John, we can have a special meeting.
Yeah, I guess in that case, I'm okay with putting it on hold.
Larry?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, let's go ahead and put our COVID return to school policy on hold. Jim, if you can just kind of start getting a feel for where other school districts are after tonight's school board meetings. It would be nice to see what some of the other, I mean, I gotta believe Sioux Falls is grappling with this issue, not just, other districts. If you can get us more information, that'd be great. If we start.
And by the way, Jim, thanks for the emails, keeping the board up to speed, serious with what's going on. That's great information, and it's appreciated.
And I don't know at what time Aaron, I know you were working, you probably didn't read them all until the afternoon. I really wish I would have waited till the end of the day, but I was trying to let you guys know, immediately, well, geez, I just learned this, now I gotta enforce
I think it's
that.
good that we're with you step by step by step, so that we understand what you're
It was
going
a
through.
crazy day.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I think the patrons need to understand there was 3 different emails and everything kept changing between 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, and that is on Peer. That is not on Dr. Block, that is not on Craig Case, that is not on the Webster School Board. If you've got an issue with it, you need to pick up the phone and call Peer and have them put together the policies and tell them that if this is the way they want us to go, then say it. Or if you're gonna tell us that we have flexibility to do it, then let us have the flexibility. But the patrons should absolutely know, the 5 of us, the 10 of us that are in this room, we're trying to be aggressive to keep the kids in school. We want our staff here. We want to knock out the 170 days. We want to keep people COVID-free as much as possible. We take it seriously, but Peer should not be sending out, and even today's Monday, right? And we still have the email coming from the Association of South Dakota School Boards and whatever COSA is.
School administrators.
Yeah, whatever.
I think it'll be interesting to see what the governor's office puts out tomorrow morning, like they did after the August meetings. But anyways.
Well, Aaron can change if nobody's gonna.
So, just to clarify, on hold for the 14 days, correct?
Right now, we would be following CDC guidelines, 14 days. There's not a way to test back in. Basically, the last guidance we got from the Department of Health says unless you are a
Essential worker.
Yeah, unless you're an essential worker, there is no way to test back in. There is no language allowing students to be essential workers. Maybe we should just make our students all essential workers. Can we put them on the payroll for free lunches, for the next, Lori, can we work on that?
I guess we kind of are, we're providing free lunches.
Free lunches, free breakfast, we could work something here.
It's paid.
But, yeah, that was the email. We'll be going by that last Department of Health, Department of Education email.
And that's symptom-free at 14 days. Not just
That-
because your 14 days
Yep.
is up, it's
Symptom-free.
symptom-free.
Yep. All right, we've beat COVID to death as a subject tonight. Anything else COVID-related? And if you have it, you have to pay $10. To Lori, not to me. All right, Jim, anything else on your report, or did we just hit COVID?
The only other thing that I wanted to mention is we are trying to do what we normally do every year. And we had an ACT testing session this last week, and I'm disappointed that I didn't get more information out to the students regarding the On to College. But the On to College program is available. I was able to log in. I'm the account manager for that, and I can see that the students have that available. Our freshman students would not have the courses that they would need, but that's not something we would normally put them in this soon. So anybody that's a junior, a senior, and even a sophomore has access to review the ACT information, do the sample tests. That stuff is available. We're going to put some things in place so that we include it in our curriculum again this fall, as well as in the spring. And we hope to do something with our homerooms where we're doing some review. The students don't really like that much because not all of them plan to take the ACT, but it's quality review that's good for every student. And so right now I'm just kind of pleading to let people know that it is available, and I'm going to email our sophomores, juniors, and seniors to say that it's available. If you need to reset your password, that's all you need to do is reset your password, and you should have access.
Jim, when it comes to the ACT scores, I believe that Amy was keeping that data, tracking from year to year, and we wanted to, is that usually around November? When are you, I thought it was in the fall. You would bring that to us.
It's good that you mentioned that because there's actually more testing sessions. We had a test session this last Saturday. I think there was 12 to 15 students. Most of them were our students. And we have a testing session again this coming Saturday. Rarely ever do you see back-to-back weekends. We don't have as many that are coming up, and then we have 2 sessions in October that we're hosting. And normally we do like one in the fall as a site, and then maybe one in January and one in the spring, so 3 over the course of the year. We're going to have 4 within a matter of 6 weeks. They're trying to catch up and give opportunities for students to be able to take the ACT because there's so much delay and disruption.
The last time you guys would have brought information to us, if it would have been last fall in 19, it would have involved calendar, like the graduating class of
19, yeah.
Correct?
We'll bring you information regarding 20 as well as some hopefully what our general averages are.
Is that something we could put on our November agenda with Chelsea to give us enough time?
I'm hoping she's up to date with what we do and how we do things by then, so.
Okay. I will say this, Jim, I haven't heard any complaints about, since we got that On to College, most of the parents do seem to know what's out there, and I think people are taking advantage of it.
Right now, I think the ones that are taking advantage are the ones that are the most motivated to begin with. We need to get the message out that it's valuable for the students to review that.
Okay. Anything else, Dr. Block?
Not regarding my topics.
Okay. Mr. Case, principal report.
Starbase, they just started this week in 5th grade, so they'll be working with Mrs. Kwasniewski's class. And then I think next week they just shift over to the next class. Preschool screening is this Thursday, so most of the parents have been contacted so they know what time they're coming in. If they haven't, they can certainly call the office and we'll get them scheduled for preschool for ages 3 through 5. And tomorrow, a gentleman from the Children's Alopecia Project will be coming in and talking to the 7th grade students. So we're not going to do a general assembly just because we want to social distance, and he's just talking to the 7th grade class because we have a student that's affected with that. So then also tomorrow, kids can wear a hat if they bring a donation, and then that donation will go towards CAP, which stands for Children's Alopecia Project. So at least $1 that they have to donate if they want to wear a hat. So that's grades K through 8, and if 9 through 12 want to wear a hat, they certainly can with Dr. Block's approval. They would just have to pay the office. So.
Only if they wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Craig, just for everybody that doesn't know what alopecia is.
Yeah, alopecia is a disease that affects little kids, middle-aged people, and it's pretty much just a loss of hair that affects the person. And maybe I'll learn some more tomorrow, but that's all I understand from what the disease is with losing eyebrows and losing some hair. Some lose more than others. So he's just going to bring an understanding and help educate the kids, just so that they have an understanding of how our little kiddo operates throughout the day.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
NESC.
The only thing that I had was there's discussion regarding declaring the staff to be essential workers, and they have chosen to do that. And then there's an ongoing challenge for their staff with respect to providing face-to-face services versus teletherapy, especially with their more high-need students. And so those were the two main discussions that we had at our last meeting.
Okay. Buildings and ground.
I don't have any written notes, but I think I had something in my notes.
The entrance, the elementary playground.
Oh, yes. The elementary playground entrance, they are fabricating the actual entrance. They have the exact measurements with the concrete work that was done. Really looking at the concrete work that was done, I think it's going to be, we could have probably a flood or a tornado come through, and that base is going to be there, nothing else there. I think Greg did a great job on that. It looks like a really solid situation, and I think it's going to take care of the separation issues between the foundation with the threshold of the doorway and the building itself. We still have some issue with a separation between the sidewalk and the building. So there's unfortunately the situation where moisture can still get in there, and that's something we hope to address next year. But that should be installed by the end of September, and the two entrances at the Armory should also be installed, as well as the one for the business office. We're hoping by the end of September.
Okay.
That's really all I have for buildings and grounds right now. Our custodians have been keeping track of the supplies for this whole COVID thing, and right now we're doing fine with our supplies, whether it's the disposable masks, the reusable masks, the cleaner, everything we're okay with. I talked to Becky earlier today just to see where we're at. We're just going to try to monitor that closely so that if within the next week or 2 or 3 weeks it looks like we need to order something, we're going to try to get it ordered, because there seems to be a delay with everything with when you're trying to get it. So.
Okay. Return to school plan, I think we've hit that issue. That being said, go ahead and motion to adjourn, and the next meeting will be Monday, October 12th, correct?
Correct.
So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Thank you, Marty. Second? Thank you, Aaron. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks for coming, folks. Thanks, John.
Probably 16-ish? Around it. No, the 605 one.
I thought you were gonna knock this one out
We
fast.
left about 605.
started that way.
Cross country.
Here we go.
So, yeah, it's probably.
We were on a roll until
I know,
COVID.
probably.
You know, it's just,
And you know what, there isn't
there isn't any good answers.
no,
No.
I know the Brown County
there
State's
isn't a
Attorney's.
right answer right now.
The Brown County State's Attorney's Office, they got hit with the COVID grenade. I mean, it took everybody out except for one of them. And that's like 4 or 5 of their attorneys. They were trying to, so they're trying to reschedule 2 weeks.